Devonta Smith has won the 2020 Heisman Memorial Trophy. He is the first receiver to win the award since Desmond Howard in 1991. Devonta Smith also won the AP Player of the Year, Fred Bilenchikoff Award, SEC Offensive Player of the Year, and now the Heisman. Smith is a senior and will likely be a top pick in this year's draft. His stats for 2020 were 105 receptions for 1,641 yards and 20 touchdowns. Smith will play Ohio State in the College Football Playoff Championship game on January 11th. The first question is, did the voters get it right? In my opinion, absolutely. Devonta Smith was the best player in college football. It just took us a long time to really think that because we all thought it was going to be a quarterback. We all thought it was going to be Trevor Lawrence, even though Trevor Lawrence never really had that game where, like, oh, that's his Heisman moment. I think the time that we considered Devonta Smith's Heisman moment was actually the SEC championship game where Alabama beat Florida, but we thought, oh, it's between Mac Jones and Kyle Trask. Whoever wins that game gets the SEC or gets the Heisman. But actually, it was Devonta Smith who impressed us more. And Mac Jones had a solid game, but a lot of his passes weren't exactly accurate. And I think Devonta Smith made a lot of great catches that helped him out in that game, especially. And of course, he balled out against Notre Dame, even though the count was already in. But I think the voters absolutely got it right with Devonta Smith winning the Heisman. And congrats to a player that if the Jets don't take it number 2, that's a shame. Did Trevor Lawrence get snubbed? No, because it's crazy because we all said during his 3 years at Clemson that he was the greatest college quarterback of all time. And I disagree with that because if he was, why didn't he win the Heisman? And yes, I know if he didn't test positive for coronavirus and missed those 2 games, he would have won the Heisman. But his freshman year, he was great. So the sophomore year, we were thinking, oh, he's going to win the Heisman. But he just didn't play he didn't play the year we were expecting him to play. And yes, it also helped that Joe Burrow was an absolute stud, but he didn't even get invited to New York his sophomore year. Then, of course, his junior year, he showed us why he's the best. A lot of great games. He didn't really have any bad games. But, you know, missing 2 games because of coronavirus really hurt him because he probably would have won the Heisman. But I don't think Trevor Lawrence did. And I think people that are saying he's the greatest football player in college football history need to tone it down because he never did win the Heisman. And if he was, he should have been the best player during his time. But I'm not trying to smack talk Trevor Lawrence. I just think that he's great, but I think we're overestimating a little bit. But I don't think he got stubbed during his career. Was Devonta Smith the best player in college football this year? Yes, and again, it took us a while for us to realize that. Because, again, we don't expect a wide receiver to win the MVP of college football. So I think he was the best player in college football this year. I mean, what he did this year, I mean, his stats were crazy. I mean, getting 1,641 yards in a 10-game season is crazy. Of course, I guess we count the SEC championship game and the bowl game. But, I mean, his stats were crazy. Devonta Smith, he's a great football player, great athlete. I mean, the sky is the limit for this guy. And I feel like he was the best player in college football history this year. It just took us a while for us to realize that. Is Devonta Smith the lock for the number 2 overall pick for the Jets? I think it should be. However, we have heard that actually, I think it was reported first on the Pat McAfee show that Field Yates went on to the Pat McAfee show on Monday and said that the Jets still are not sure what they want to do with the number 2 overall pick. They're not sure if they want to keep Sam Darnold or not. But if I'm the Jets, I'm keeping Sam Darnold. I'm hiring a coach that maximizes Sam Darnold's talent. And with the number 2 pick, Trevor Lawrence is likely going number 1. But I'm going to draft Devonta Smith to have the number 2 overall pick because the Jets don't have a lot of receivers. Jamison Crowder's not bad, but he's not really a number 1. If you get Devonta Smith out there, that's going to help Sam Darnold out a tremendous. You probably need a running game, maybe a few options at free agency. But if I'm the Jets, I'm drafting Devonta Smith, and I'm keeping Sam Darnold. I'm assuming the Jets will end up picking up Sam Darnold's player option, then drafting Devonta Smith at the number 2 overall pick. If not, I could see a team like the Bengals or the Eagles drafting him at 5 or 6. I mean, even the Falcons, I guess, if they want to get rid of Julio Jones. The Dolphins have the 3rd pick too, and they need a wide receiver if they are sold on Tua. Will Alabama beat Ohio State in the college football playoff championship? I think they will. Alabama's the better team. Alabama's probably the best team. I mean, they've been the best team for a long time now. I think Ohio State makes it a game, but at the end of the day, Alabama is just too much for Ohio State, even though Ohio State just went out and smacked Clemson in the mouth because we all thought Clemson was going to smack Ohio State, but it was really Ohio State smacking Clemson. So I think at the end of the Alabama is just better. I think the final score is going to be 45-41 Alabama. Here's a question that a lot of people are asking. Did Kyle Trask lose to Oklahoma affect his Heisman chance? No, because the Heisman vote was already tallied by that time. But I think what really hurt Kyle Trask is his loss to Alabama. And he didn't have a bad game. He actually had a pretty solid game, especially at the end when they almost won the game. But at the end of the day, losing just didn't help his cause. And they also lost to LSU, which I think was another big loss for Florida. And again, that wasn't Kyle Trask's fault because one of the corners for LSU or for Florida decides to throw a shoe. Like, come on, man. But I think losing to LSU and then losing to Alabama really affected his chance. But I do think he'll still be a top pick in this year's draft. And last but not least, who has the best odds to win the Heisman next season? Well, Spencer Radler of Oklahoma. He's very young, and especially with how good Oklahoma quarterbacks have been in the past, the last three before him won the Heisman or were in the Heisman conversation. Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts. I could see Spencer Radler being a top pick for Heisman next year. Sam Howell from UNC, and of course DJ Ungalele from Clemson. After having such a great game against Notre Dame, they lost, but I think he's definitely going to be in the rank. So I think the three best are going to be Spencer Radler, Sam Howell, and DJ Ungalele. The Sports Town Podcast, or the STP Pod for short. You can find us on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and much more. We release new episodes every Wednesday and Friday. Also, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Sports Town Podcast. If you want to check out more videos of the Sports Town Podcast, click on the left. If you want to subscribe to the channel, click on the right.